What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Hiruzen sealed Kyuubi into Naruto instead of Minato and Kushina? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. The Kyuubi had been released and the man claiming to be Madara Uchiha had just fled the battle. There was destruction everywhere. The village in ruins as buildings and ninja alike were crushed under the paws of the Kyuubi. The Biju stopped at Rampage momentarily and looked towards the mountain known as the Hokage Monument where one lone figure stood. That figure was Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage. So you noticed me. If you think I'm going to let you destroy my village, think again. Minato said with one of his signature kunai floating in front of his hands. Kyuubi had released its attack and it's speeding towards Minato, but right before it could make contact a sealing formula appeared swallowing it whole. It appeared far away, destroying mountains in the process. I need to be more careful with something that powerful. Minato thought to himself as he sensed someone behind him. With the speed that made him legendary he spun around with the intent to take off the assailant's head, but his kunai never made contact as his hand went through his opponent's head. He didn't have much time to think about it as the man charged him. I am your opponent and you are done for, the man said as a vortex appeared from his eye. Minato could feel himself being pulled into the vortex, but he wasn't the yellow flash for nothing as he flashed to one of his scattered kunai. He got away so fast, the masked man said before disappearing. Minato appeared crashing into the ground. He sat himself up before thinking, who is that? My attack went right through him but he materialized himself to grab me. His time for thinking was over as the masked man appeared in front of him. I won't let you get away, the masked man said. His mask shone by the moonlight, his single eye was visible and it was a Sharingan. This new revelation made Minato think. A Sharingan? Who is this man? He snuck past the barrier I set up myself and he killed the Anbu handpicked by Sarutobi-sama along with Bawako-sama and Taji. He also seemed to know that a female Jinchuriki's seal is weakened during childbirth and then he managed to release and tame the Kyuubi, and there are only two men that have been able to control the Kyuubi. Minato then broke the silence. Are you Madara Uchiha? The masked man lowered his hood showing his short black hair. No, that's impossible, died long ago. Minato said. I wouldn't be so sure if I were you, the masked man said. Minato spoke again. It really doesn't matter who you are. I'm not going to let you destroy what my predecessors have died to save. He finished. Aren't you a brave one, but whether you try to stop me or not I will succeed, he said. Minato had enough of talking. He didn't have the privilege of time at the moment and he didn't have chakra to waste, so he had to make it quick. Minato threw a kunai at the masked man who just let pass through him, but that's what Minato wanted as he teleported to the kunai, instantly calling upon a Rasengan, shoving it into the masked man, digging into his back. Minato jumped away to create some space as the masked man got up. As the masked man started getting up, Minato appeared in front of him with his palm buried in his chest before appearing back to where he once stood. The masked man stood up shakily holding his side as it looked like it was falling off. Impressive, I must hand it to you, fourth Hokage, you deserve the title of Hokage. You managed to wound me and sever my ties with the Nine Tails. However, the Nine Tails will be mine again. I'm going to take over the world and there are so many ways of doing that, and don't worry because I will come and there will be nothing you can do about it, he said, disappearing into his vortex. Minato stood there alone thinking to himself. That tone, he was serious about taking over the world. He'll be back and when the time comes I'll be ready. Expanding his senses, making sure the masked man was gone, he wasted no time teleporting back to the village. He had to seal the Kyuubi before it could kill more of his villagers. He appeared on a destroyed rock formation on the outskirts of the village. He could see the Kyuubi preparing to fire another Bijudama, so he sped through some hand seals, slamming his palm on the ground as the Toad Chief Gamabunta was summoned above the Biju before landing on top of it. Minato instantly appeared on top of Gamabunta. Bunta, I need you to hold him down for a little bit, Minato said, jumping down while going through hand seals. He landed on top of the Nine Tails' head before both on them disappearing. They landed in a clearing with a resounding crash as the Kyuubi slid across the ground. Minato took this time to get ready for the sealing. He teleported to Kushina and Naruto. He appeared next to his sleeping wife and child. Sorry my love, but this has to be done, he said, picking Naruto up and teleporting away. Back at the clearing with the Kyuubi, Minato was speeding through hand seals as the Kyuubi was slamming its tails against the barrier he created. He finished his hand seals, Uzumaki style, Ketsugo Tentai. He said as tendrils of light appeared from his body speeding towards the Kyuubi. The tendrils went into the Nine Tails body and began pulling out its chakra. Minato just finished another set of hand seals as he placed Naruto on the throne he had just summoned. The Kyuubi was roaring in place as it began being pulled into baby Naruto. A few seconds later the Kyuubi was sealed and Minato was passed out, leaving a crying Naruto. A week later, Minato awoke to find himself in a place he hadn't been many times in his life, a hospital room. He sat up and took in his surroundings before beginning to panic as he remembered what occurred the night before. In an instant 3 figures appeared in front of him. He looked up to see his personal guard standing there. The first had brown shoulder-length hair and wore his hitate as a bandana. The second had spiky brown hair and a notable wheel-like scar across the bridge of his nose, and the last one had brown hair and a goatee. "Hokage-sama, do not strain yourself, you've only just awakened," the one with the scar said. "Rado, how long have I been out?" he asked. "You have been in a comatose-like state for a week, there was even talk of you not waking up." Rado responded. Minato was surprised he'd been out for a week, then again he did seal the strongest of the Biju. "A week?" he exclaimed before trying to get up. Before he could fully stand up, the door slammed open, causing everybody in the room to be on guard. Everyone relaxed once it turned out to be the Hokage's wife. She ran to her husband's side, hugging him as if she would never let go. Minato snapped his fingers, signaling his guard to leave the room. "Minato-kun, you had me worried, I didn't know if you would wake up or not," she said, crying into his shoulder. "Kushi-chan, you never have to worry about me leaving you or Naruto. Speaking of Naruto, where is he?" he asked, holding her tight. "He is with Kakashi and his squad at the compound," she answered. "I need to get back to being Hokage, so I need you to follow Genma and Iwashi. They will take you to get Naruto and bring you to council meeting," he said. "Why do we need to be at the council meeting?" she asked, already knowing the answer. "The council will no doubt ask about the Kyuubi and I will have to tell them the truth about you and Naruto," he said as snapped his fingers again, once again calling upon his guards, as they appeared in front of him. "Genma and Iwashi, I want you two to escort Kushina to our compound and escort her to the council meeting. Also tell Kakashi to meet me here. Rado, I want you to assemble the council," he commanded, and they vanished without a word. Minato got dressed in the clothes Kushina left him. He couldn't help but think back to what the Madara imposter said. "I'm going to take over the world and there are so many ways of doing that, and don't worry because I will come and there will be nothing you can do about it." He shook the thought out of his head, he had other things to think about. His hands flipped through a series of hand seals. Slamming his palm on the ground, a medium-sized yellow and green toad appeared. "Hey Gamakiro, I have a real important job for," Minato said, kneeling down. "Anything for you, Minato-sama," Gamakiro said, puffing his chest out. "I need you to tell Jiraiya that he needs to come back to the village and tell him that it's not a request," Minato said as the toad disappeared to do its job. He didn't like giving his sensei commands, but he had to think of the village first, and he was pretty sure that his sensei was already on his way. He felt a small spike of chakra. Turning to the source, he found Kakashi standing there. "Kakashi, it's nice to," Minato started to say before Kakashi enveloped him in a hug before quickly pulling away. "Sensei, I'm glad you're okay," Kakashi said, causing Minato to smile. Kakashi rarely acted like this, but he would enjoy the times when Kakashi wasn't always guarding his emotions. "It's good to see you too, Kakashi, but I have some business to handle and I want you to come with me," Minato said, and Kakashi was instantly at his sensei's side in full shinobi mode. Minato grabbed his shoulder and they disappeared in yellow flash. They appeared in a dark forest. They stood there as if waiting for something. They didn't have to wait long as 3 shadowy figures appeared walking from inside the forest. When they appeared, it was 3 men. The elderly man in the middle had his left eye covered by bandages and he walked with a cane. The 2 men flanking him stood in the shadows. The only thing you could see were the blank white mask they wore. "I see that you have awoken. What do I owe the pleasure, Hokage-sama?" the man asked. "Spare me the pleasantries, Danzo, I want to know what you've been up to in my absence," Minato said in a commanding tone. "What makes you think that I've been up to anything?" Danzo questioned. "I'm no fool and neither are you, so spare me the mind games," Minato said, causing Danzo to chuckle. You were always a keen one. I've sent my men throughout the elemental nations to place false events about the Kyuubi attack. Danzo said. That's a good start, but now I need you to send some men out to see what the other villages are up to. Minato commanded. It will be done, Hokage-sama. Danzo said. Good, and don't be late to the council meeting. Minato said, grabbing Kakashi and teleporting away. Hokage's office. Minato and Kakashi appeared in the Hokage's office just as Hiruzen Sarutobi was walking in the door. The moment Sarutobi saw Minato seemed to make him look younger. The wrinkles on his face became less defined. His gray hair seemed to become darker and the bags under his eyes seemed to shrink. Oh Minato-kun, how good it is to see you, and you to Kakashi. Sarutobi said with a sigh of relief. It's nice to see you to Sarutobi-sama. Minato said as Kakashi bowed his head. I assume you want to talk about what has happened in your absence. Sarutobi asked. Before Minato could respond, his personal guard appeared with Kushina and Naruto in tow. They kneeled before their superiors. We have your family and the council has been assembled. Genma said while still kneeling. Thank you, you may now return to your post. Minato said as they returned to the shadows. Hello Kushina-chan, and how is baby Naruto doing? Sarutobi said as he looked at the sleeping baby. Kushi-chan, I want you to stay in here with Kakashi until I call you guys. Minato said. Okay Minato-kun, but if one of those old geezers even think of hurting my baby, they'll wish they were never born. Kushina said with passion as fiery as her hair. They wouldn't dare. I think we have a meeting to attend, Sarutobi-sama. Minato said, walking away with Sarutobi in tow. Council room. From outside the room you could hear the idle chatter of its inhabitants. As soon as Minato and Hiruzen entered the room, it became silent and stayed that way for a few seconds until someone spoke up. It's nice to see you awake and moving around, Hokage-sama. A man said with black hair and a spiky ponytail. It's nice to be up and moving, Shikaku, but I believe we have more important matters at hand. Minato said. As you all know, I've been incapacitated for a week and Sarutobi has been acting Hokage in my stead, but I would like to be caught up on current events. First I want to know the damage to our forces. Shikaku, I think this is your area. Minato said, turning his attention to Shikaku. We lost around 3,000 shinobi, that's roughly 20% of our forces. Shikaku answered in a grim tone. What about civilian losses, Kazashi? Minato questioned a pink-haired man. The civilian losses were much less severe, it was around 400. Most of them were evacuated before the Kyuubi reached the village. Kazashi said. Speaking of the Kyuubi, its appearance was so sudden, where did it come from? A man with dark hair and eyes to match said. So was the sudden disappearance of the Uchiha during the attack, Fugaku. A man said with pupil-less eyes. What are you insinuating, Hyuga? Fugaku said in angered tone. That there. Hiashi started before being interrupted. Quiet, I don't need two of my clan heads acting like children. Minato bellowed, exuding chakra making the air heavy. The room became quiet and the occupants started to sweat as the chakra pushed down on them. He stopped releasing his chakra, much to the relief of his council members. I apologize for my outburst, Hokage-sama. Hiashi begrudgingly apologized. Minato looked towards Fugaku, waiting for him to do the same. As am I, Hokage-sama. Fugaku said, still glaring daggers at Hiashi. We will talk about the Uchiha's absence later, but for now the topic of the Kyuubi is at hand. Minato said, snapping his fingers, calling an Anbu from the shadows, whispering in his ear. A few seconds later the Anbu walked in with Kushina and Naruto. While it's nice to see her, what is your wife doing here and whose child is she holding? A man with blonde hair and blues questioned. Kushina is here because she's part of the story, and so is our son whom she is holding. Minato said the last part with pride. Son, it all makes sense now. Kushina's sudden retirement from the ninja forces and Makoto's talk of Sasuke having a best friend like her. Fugaku said. Now on to how the Kyuubi appeared. Now, as all of you should know, the first wife was Mito Uzumaki, who was Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, but what most of you don't know was that when she died the Kyuubi was transferred into Kushina. Minato said, shocking most of the occupants of the room. So how did the Kyuubi get released? Homura, one of the elders, asked. Female Jinchuriki seals are weakened during childbirth and someone found out and attacked Kushina after she gave birth. Minato said. So one person got through our barrier silently and killed 3 Anbu guard, Taji and Bawako-sama, without anyone noticing before it was too late. A large man with spiral marks on his cheeks said. Yes, Choza, he used some type of teleporting jutsu that let him move freely in and out of our barrier without being detected. Minato wanted to keep the part about the Sharingan to himself for now. So he released the Kyuubi and set it upon our village? A feral-looking woman asked. Who would do that, and I don't know of anyone alive today that could control the Kyuubi. A confused Fugaku asked. Well, he separated me and Kushina when I took Naruto to safety, then I rescued Kushina after he released the Kyuubi. He tried to attack me, but when I retaliated my kunai went straight through him as if nothing was there. We fought for a short time and I managed to wound him and relinquish his control over the Kyuubi. He told me that he would be back and that he would take over the world, then he disappeared. Minato explained. That explains where the Kyuubi came from, but it does not explain where it went. Danzo said. Minato knew this was coming, but it didn't make it any easier. I sealed the Kyuubi into my son. Minato said. The room got dangerously quiet. Minato looked around the room at the different faces. Is he stable? I mean, will the Kyuubi be able to break free? A man with long black hair asked. Have you so little faith in my husband's skills? I've kept it at bay for 13 years, so I know my son can do it. Kushina spoke up for the first time. Kushina is right, we need to have faith in our Hokage's skill. If we can't count on him, then who? Shikaku said, nodding in Kushina's direction. I guarantee you safety, the seal is sturdy and won't break anytime soon. Minato assured his counsel. Him being your son and a Jinchuriki, I would think that he's going to receive special training. Danzo questioned. Minato normal blue eyes became icy as they fell on Danzo. You don't need to worry about my son, he will receive whatever training I deem worthy, and that's the end of that. Minato said with force. As you wish, Hokage-sama. Danzo relented. Kushina, you may go, Kakashi will escort you home, see you there. Minato said, turning his attention back to the council. Later that night at the Namikaze home. Minato was lying in bed with Kushina. Naruto was in his crib next to the bed. Kushina rolled over facing him and dug her head into his chest. Minato, we both barely made it through the attack and our baby boy would have had to grow up being an orphaned Jinchuriki. She said, starting to cry. Minato held her closer, trying to console her. Shish, don't talk like that, we both made and we get to raise our son. I'll never let anything happen to you or Naruto. Minato said as he looked down to see Kushina sleep. He smiled and thought to himself, I don't know what I would do without my family, I'll die before I let anything happen to them. Soon he drifted off to sleep with a smile on his face and his wife in his arms. Naruto was up early and eager to get to the academy. Today was the first day of the rest of his life. He got dressed, a short-sleeved dark blue turtleneck, dark blue pants taped at the ankle with black tape. He made his way downstairs to find his mom waiting in the kitchen with breakfast on the table. When she sees him, she calls him over to her. Naruto-kun, your father wanted me to tell you that he wants you to come by his office today. Kushina told him. Okay, but why did he leave so early? Naruto asked. I guess something came up, he got up in a rush this morning. Kushina said, sliding him some food. Sorry mom, I'm in a rush this morning, I love you, see you later. Naruto said, grabbing an apple, running out the door. Kushina couldn't help but smile, she knew why in a rush, she just wanted him stay her baby for as long as he could. She eventually, this day would come, the day her son became a shinobi and thrust out into the world. She knew something big was going to happen, she could feel it in her stomach. She didn't know what was going to happen or when, but she knew something was coming. At the academy, Naruto was standing in the door of the academy and it seems he didn't get up as early as he thought. The class was already full, he seemed to be one of the last people to come. He saw Shikamaru and Choji and decided to sit by them. He walked over to them. Shikamaru as usual had his head down and Choji stuffing his face. What's up guys, any ideas of what team you'll be on? Naruto asked them, Shikamaru mainly. As troublesome as it may be, I think Ino, Choji and I will be teamed up like our fathers before us. Shikamaru said before laying his head back down. Choji attempted to say something but nothing but muffles came out due to his mouth being full of chips. A few more kids came in before Iruka walked to the front of the class and started naming off teams. After a few teams and not hearing his name, started talking to Shikamaru again. So Shika, how's the training going, making any progress? Naruto asked. Training is fine, it keeps my mom off my back. Shikamaru said. Naruto was going to respond when he heard someone clearing their throat. He turned to the source of the sound and found Iruka staring at him and Shikamaru. "Is there something you would like to tell the class, gentlemen?" Iruka said, looking annoyed. Shikamaru mumbled something about troublesome blondes before laying his head back down. "Not at all, Iruka-sensei, you may continue," Naruto said, smirking. "Thank you for approval, Naruto," Iruka said sarcastically before continuing. There were a few laughs around the class until Iruka used his signature jutsu to shut them up. "Now, as I was saying before being interrupted, Team 7 will be Sakura Haruno, Sasuke Uchiha. Naruto Uzumaki and Kakashi Hitaki will be their sensei." A squeal could be heard from Sakura. Naruto and Sasuke just gave each other an acknowledging nod. Naruto could live with this team. Sasuke was obviously talented and Sakura had her upsides to then he had his big brother Kakashi as a sensei. He was known throughout the world. Other people would kill to have Kakashi as a sensei. Iruka started naming off teams again. Team 8 will be Shino Aburame, Hinata Hyuga, Kiba Inuzuka and Kurenai Yuhi as their sensei. Iruka said, giving them a minute before continuing. Team 9 is still in rotation from last year, so on to Team 10. Choji Akamichi, Shikamaru Nara and Ino Yamanaka with Asumaseru Tobi as the sensei. Iruka finished. Naruto looked around his class thinking back to the times he had here. This could be the last time he would see some of these kids for a long time. They were all going to be ninja now. They would taking missions outside of the villages. The academy walls wouldn't be there to protect them anymore. This is the day they had all been waiting for, and now that it was here he was excited. Academy. It had been an hour and everybody had left with their new sensei. Naruto knew Kakashi had a habit of being late, so he chose to ask Sasuke to spar. He walked over to Sasuke being pestered by Sakura. "Hey Sasuke, since Kakashi-sensei is not here yet, would you like to spar?" Naruto asked as a look of relief appeared on Sasuke's face. "It's your funeral," Sasuke said, walking over to the sparring area. They walked to the sparring area and stood opposite of each other waiting to start. Sakura would officiate the fight. She stood in the middle of both of them with her hand raised. They were unaware of the eye that watched them from afar. "Are you both ready?" she asked, getting a nod from both of them. She dropped her hand while getting out of the way as they shot towards each other. As soon as he was close enough, Naruto threw a quick right jab. Sasuke tilted his head to the side as Naruto's fist narrowly retaliating with his own punches. Naruto continued dodging Sasuke's onslaught before jumping back to analyze the situation. He could tell that Sasuke's fighting style was about countering and then keep the opponent on the defensive. He didn't have any more time to think as Sasuke shot towards him again. He had to quickly duck under a high kick. Taking advantage of the situation, he threw two quick punches to Sasuke's solar plexus, sending him flying backwards towards a tree, but before he could hit it he was snatched out the air. "It's good to see you, Kakashi ni," Naruto greeted the white-haired man behind Sasuke. This caused Sakura to raise an eyebrow. She thought Naruto was an only child. "Ah, it's Kakashi-sensei in public, Naruto. Now that I'm here we can get to know each other better," Kakashi said, putting Sasuke down. They walked over to the spectator area and sat down, but before Kakashi could start, Sakura spoke up. "Kakashi-sensei, are you really Naruto's brother? You two don't look anything alike?" she asked, eliciting a chuckle from Naruto and Kakashi. "In all but blood, Sakura," Naruto answered cryptically. "What's that supposed to mean?" she asked. "I thought you were the smart one, Sakura. He means that we are not related by blood, but we are brothers nonetheless," Kakashi answered before continuing. "Now if I may, I would like to know your likes, dislike, hobbies and goals," he said, pointing at Sasuke. "My likes are my brother and cousin, my dislikes are traitors and sweets. My hobbies are training and wire weaving, and my goal is to become strong enough to beat my brother," Sasuke said. Sakura was next. She didn't really say she had any likes, but the look she gave Sasuke told it all. Her dislikes were spicy food and bullies. Her hobbies were trivia games and reading, and her goal was the same as her likes. Naruto went last. His likes were family and ramen. His dislikes were people who judged books by their cover. His hobbies were training and calligraphy, and his goals were to become a Hokage greater than those before him. When they all finished, Sakura asked another question. "Kakashi-sensei, since you know about us, why don't you tell us about you?" she asked. "Well, you already know my name, Naruto's my brother, and that I'm a Jonin. I would say you know enough," Kakashi said, eyes smiling before disappearing, leaving a small note in his place. Naruto walked over to the note and read it. He passed the note to his teammates. Sakura looked kind of disgruntled, Sasuke looked indifferent. So what do you guys think the test is going to be about? Sasuke questioned. I don't know, but knowing Kakashi it won't be easy. Naruto stated. I have to get home, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Sasuke said, walking away. With Sasuke gone, Sakura had no reason to stay, so she left after him. His first being a ninja, he couldn't be any happier, but he didn't have anything to do until he remembered what his mother told him this morning. He started making his way to his dad's office. Hokage's office. Naruto was happy to be seeing his dad. He had been absent a lot the past week getting ready for the Chunin exams in Kusa. Naruto was walking into his dad's office before he was stopped by the secretary, a young woman with long brown hair and green eyes. Is there a problem, Mai-san? He asked her. No, but your father is in a meeting right now, but they should be finished soon. You can wait here if you want. She said, smiling. That sounds okay. Do you know who he is meeting with? Naruto asked, sitting down. I believe he is in a meeting with a man from the Land of Frost. She said. Oh, maybe that's why he left so early this morning. Naruto said in deep thought. The Land of Frost usually stays to themselves. I wonder what made them come now. He thought. As he finished his thoughts, the door to his dad's office opened, revealing a man with pale skin and green hair. He wore white baggy pants and a light blue long-sleeve shirt. Minato seemed to take notice of Naruto as he ushered the visitor over to him. Yates Juhi, I would like you to meet my son Naruto. Minato said, introducing him. It's nice to meet you, young Naruto-sama. He said, shaking Naruto's hand. It's nice to meet you too, Juhi-san. Naruto said. I'm sorry, but I must take my leave now, and thank you again, Hokage-sama. He said before leaving. When the man was finally gone, Naruto let his curiosity get the best of him. Dad, who was that guy? He asked. He is a personal guard for the daimyo of the Land of Frost. Minato answered. You wouldn't be able to tell me why he was here, would you? Naruto asked, using his best puppy eyes, making his dad chuckle. I'm sorry, son, that confidential information. Minato said, smiling. Naruto knew he wouldn't get anything from his dad, so he changed the subject. Hey dad, I'm wondering, how did you come up with the teams this year? Naruto asked. Like I do every year. He said, as if Naruto should know. Seeing his son's confusion, he continued. Compatibility, son. I, along with the Jonin sensei, look back at your grades throughout the academy and see who fits best with who. He finished. I understand how Shikamaru and his team fit, the same with Shino and his, but how does my team fit together? Naruto asked curiously. Your team is quite special, as the other teams specialize in one thing. Your team has the components to take on any kind of mission when called upon. He said before stopping, letting it sink in. You yourself have a very diverse set of skills, as does Sasuke, but Sakura will be a very important part of the team as well. I'll let you think about it, but right now I have some work to do. He finished. Yeah, I'll see you at home. Naruto said before disappearing in a cloud of leaves and smoke. When he arrived to his house, he found it empty. He figured his mom was at the market or something. He was home alone with nothing to do. A time for training, he thought to himself. He walked to one of the special training grounds designed by his dad. It was lush with green grass, large trees, and rocks, and surrounded by 4 18-foot walls reinforced by seals. It was designed to be able to withstand all types of training from Kinjutsu to Taijutsu. He wondered what the test would be over. How would Kakashi test us? He wondered, then it hit him. They were Team 7 and all of the Team 7s he knew took one test. He created 2 clones and told them to find his teammates and tell them what he just discovered. He just hoped that he was right, but now was not the time to doubt himself, it was time to train. He decided to work on his Suidan manipulation. He walked over to a small pond where the moisture in the air would be high. He held his hand over the pond, soon water started appearing in his hand. Naruto smiled as it started to overflow, falling into the pond. Later that night, Minato came home and it was quiet. Too quiet for him, he extended his senses. He sensed Kushina in their bedroom, and it seemed that Naruto had been training. He walked to the training ground where Naruto was and picked him up and took him to his room. He smiled, his son would be great, he just hoped he would be able to do what was right when the time came. The next day Naruto made his way to the training grounds. When he got there, it seemed that he was the first one there. He sat down to wait on his team. He didn't have to wait long as Sakura came walking up, still looking half asleep. They spent the next 5 minutes sitting in an awkward silence until Sasuke finally arrived. Since his team was here, Naruto thought it would be best if they talk strategy while waiting for Kakashi. Little did they know said man was watching them from the trees above them. An hour later, Kakashi arrived with his buried in his little pink book, much to the annoyance of Sakura. "Sensei, I thought we were supposed to be here at 6 a.m.? Sakura asked. "Correct, you were supposed to be here at 6. The note said nothing about me being here at 6. Kakashi responded. "As clever as always, huh, sensei?" Naruto said, smirking. "Let's get to business, these are the reason we are all here." Kakashi said, holding up 2 golden bells. "What are those for, sensei?" Sasuke asked, confused. "These are your objective, you have 2 hours to get them from me." Kakashi said, setting the timer he had for 2 hours, his face still buried in his book. As soon as the timer started, Naruto dashed towards Kakashi, creating 2 clones. Sasuke went behind him to flank him, and Sakura was nowhere to be seen. Naruto and his clones were upon Kakashi. The first clone went low, trying to sweep Kakashi's feet from under him. Kakashi jumped, lashing out at the second clone, attempting to punch him. He could feel the air around him getting hot. Out the corner of his eye he could see something big heading his way fast, but it was too late as the giant ball of fire collided with him. The fire evaporated, revealing charred remains of a tree branch. "Where did he go? Did he go?" asked Naruto, looking towards Sasuke. "Somewhere in the forest, I assume. Let's go get Sakura," Sasuke said, taking off with Naruto not far behind. With Kakashi, Kakashi sat in a tree where he had to kawarimi himself with a branch. "To think these kids burned my precious and forced me to use kawarimi even with me holding back. Let's see what else they have planned," Kakashi thought before disappearing. He tracked his students' chakra to a clearing. Nothing special, just a clearing with a river running through it, but something seemed off. His instincts kicked in as he dodged a volley of shuriken and kunai. He jumped down into the clearing. He looked around and noticed the chakra in the air. He quickly dispelled the genjutsu that was placed on him. He took to the trees to gather his bearings, but he hit an invisible wall. "Ah, a barrier jutsu, impressive Naruto. I see you've been working on your fuinjutsu," Kakashi said, looking towards the forest as his students came walking out. "Yes, I have, and it seems to be holding strong," Naruto said, smiling. "I guess your plan was good after all," Sasuke said. "I'm sure you could make a plan just as good, Sasuke-kun," Sakura said, blushing a little when Sasuke looked her way. "So you've caught me, but the test was to get the bells," Kakashi said. "We do have the bells, we just captured you two as collateral," Naruto said. "Smart, but could you let me go now?" Kakashi asked. "I'll let you go, but first bring the bells to the edge of the barrier," Naruto said, walking to the barrier. "I'll give you the bells if you tell me your plan," Kakashi negotiated. "I don't see why not, we already have you, so it wouldn't hurt," Naruto said. He went on to tell Kakashi how he figured out the test and how he sent shadow clones to tell Sasuke and Sakura. The shadow clones then told them of his plan. They would meet at his favorite restraint and he would send 3 hanged shadow clones in their place while they set up the actual trap. "Well devised, I must say. Not many people in the world can say they've captured me, but you seem to forget one thing," Kakashi said, smiling from behind his mask, making his students nervous. "What did we forget?" a sweating Sakura asked. "That I can use shadow clones too," said Kakashi from behind them, making them all jump. The would-be genin turned around to the barrier to see where the clone Kakashi once stood, a plume of smoke. Realizing that they never caught Kakashi and essentially failing the test made them hang their heads. "So does that mean we failed?" Naruto asked. "On the contrary, my young charges, you've done more than most ninja who've come across me can say," Kakashi said, ruffling Naruto's hair. "So we pass?" Sakura excitedly asked. "Let's just say Team 7 is on to bigger and better things," Kakashi said. Later at the Hokage's office. Later that day in the Hokage's office, Minato was surrounded by all the jonin that had tested teams, and like the previous years, after he changed the academy curriculum, the numbers were around 45% pass rate. It was Naruto's class turn. "Tekuno, let's start with you," Minato said, looking at a heavy-set man. "My team failed," he answered, which was the same response he received the next few times until it came to Asuma Sarutobi, a bear of a man, short black hair, broad shoulders and a goatee. "Team 10 passed with flying colors," Asuma said proudly. Next it was Kurenai Yuhi's turn, a fairly new jonin. Fair-skinned, beautiful red eyes, long black hair. She was dressed in a red mesh blouse and a material that resembled bandages. Team 8 passed, exceeding expectations. Kurenai said. It was Kakashi's turn and everybody was looking at him waiting for an answer. He stood there aloofly digging in his ear until he looked at everyone staring at him. Is there something I can do for you all? He asked casually, causing Minato to bury his face in his hands and everyone else to sweat drop. Kakashi, we need to know if Team 7 passed. Minato said. Oh, is that it? Yes, they passed. Team 7 is in commission. Kakashi said. I thank you all for your time. You are dismissed for now, and those who passed their teams, I want you to stay behind. Minato ordered as his subordinates either left or stayed. Out of the many Jonin that were just standing there, only 4 remained: Kakashi, Asuma, Kurenai and tall slender man with brown hair. You 4 have passed your teams and all of you have clan heirs on your teams. Their parents as well as me expect to see them grow under your command. Do not make me regret choosing you as the sensei for your respective teams. Minato said. Hi Hokage-sama, they responded in unison. That is all, you are dismissed, he said as they bowed and disappeared. A month later. It had been about a month since Team 7's formation. They divided their time between doing D-rank missions and team training sessions. Naruto and Sasuke began to get restless doing D-rank missions while Sakura consistently told them that was what Genin did. It was only a matter of time before they brought it up with Kakashi. They were all waiting for Kakashi as usual. Do you think he'll listen to us about going on a higher rank mission? Sasuke asked Naruto. I think he will, he knows what we can do. Naruto said. I hope he does because I'm getting tired of these stupid D-rank missions. Sasuke responded. Have you ever been outside the village? Naruto asked. Yeah, I used to travel with my mom before the incident. Sasuke said, hanging his head. Naruto felt bad for bringing up bad memories. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Naruto said. No, it's fine. Have you been out of the village? Sasuke asked, changing the subject. Yeah, I've been to a few Chunin exams with my dad. Naruto answered. What about you, Sakura? Have you been outside of the village? Sasuke asked. No, my parents never took me with them, they said it was too dangerous. Sakura said, kind of ashamed being the only one to not have left the village. We have some time before sensei comes. Want to spar? Naruto asked Sasuke. You always want to spar, is fighting all you think about? Sakura questioned kind of loudly. Maybe if you thought about fighting a little more then you wouldn't be holding us back. Sasuke said. As soon as the words left Sasuke's mouth, tears started streaming down Sakura's face. Naruto felt kind of bad for her, but she needed some kind of wake-up call, and who better to get it from than her crush. Sakura took off running. Naruto tried to stop her, but it was for nothing as she kept running. Sasuke, did you have to be so cruel? Naruto asked. I didn't mean to make her cry, but she needed to be told. You know it's true, she's holding us back. Sasuke said. He's right, Naruto, she needed a wake-up call, though I would prefer it was worded different. Kakashi said, appearing out of nowhere while glaring at Sasuke. What about our training today? We can't do that without Sakura. Said Naruto. I have something special for you guys today and I'll handle Sakura. Just head to your dad's office and I'll meet you guys there. Kakashi said before vanishing into thin air. With Sakura and Kakashi, Sakura was running towards her house when she bumped into something hard. She looked up from her spot on the floor to see Kakashi holding his hand out. She took his hand, helping her stand. Let's walk and talk, Sakura. Kakashi said, starting to walk away. Sakura ran to catch up. What do you want to talk about, sensei? Sakura asked, wiping her face. You know Sasuke is right, Sakura. Kakashi said seriously. So you think I'm holding us back too? Sakura said, starting to cry again. Kakashi stopped and kneeled down to face Sakura. Yes, I do think you're holding the team back, but it doesn't have to stay that way. He said. What do you mean, sensei? She asked. You are a shinobi of the Konoha, now you have to start acting like it. Start taking your training seriously, and if you want I can help you when we get back from our mission. Kakashi said. That sounds great, Kakashi-sensei, but what mission? I thought today was a training day. Sakura asked. Come with me and find out. Kakashi said, grabbing Sakura and disappearing before she could answer. Hokage's office. Naruto and Sasuke sat outside the Hokage's office waiting for the rest of their team, chatting about their favorite techniques. They would have gone in, but Minato was meeting with another team at the moment. I just started learning it, but it's quickly becoming one of my favorite jutsu. Sasuke said. So your brother taught you what once was a village secret, that's awesome. Naruto said in awe. He heard some voices he recognized and looked down the hallway to see Kakashi and Sakura walking their way. I see you two are doing fine without us. Kakashi said with Sakura hiding behind him. Sasuke saw her and decided to apologize. Sakura, I shouldn't have said what I did, but that doesn't make it any less true. Sasuke said, getting a glare from Kakashi and a chuckle from Naruto. Kakashi ni, I think that's the best you're going to get from an Uchiha. Naruto said, stifling a laugh. It doesn't matter now, we have a mission to accept, come on. Kakashi said, walking to the Hokage's office, his students following behind. The door opened to reveal Minato meeting with Team 8. Your bad habit of being late seems to have rubbed off on your team, Kakashi. Minato said from behind his desk. We had a bit of a problem, but we hear now, Hokage-sama. Kakashi responded. Now that you are all here, I can brief you on your mission. Your teams have been chosen to retrieve an ancient artifact in the land of hot water. The client name is Kishi, will meet you at the designated location. Minato explained. If I may ask, how will we recognize the client? Kurenai asked. I believe Kakashi has had previous meetings with our client. Minato said with a small smile on his face. Everyone looked towards Kakashi, waiting for his response. Yes, Kishi and I have participated on a mission beforehand, and let's just say that he's very unique. He said. Kakashi will lead this mission with Kurenai in second in command. You leave tomorrow morning. Are there any more questions? Minato asked. This seems like a routine retrieval mission. Why does it require 2 teams? Kurenai asked curiously. Normally I would send 1 team, but this particular artifact will attract some unwanted attention. Now I have work to do if you don't have any more questions. Minato said in a tone that left no room to argue. No, we don't have any other questions, Hokage-sama. Kakashi said, giving Kurenai a disapproving look. Good, you are dismissed. Minato said, getting back to his work. All of the ninjas started filing out of the room. When they got outside the office, Kakashi and Kurenai stopped their teams to address them. You heard Hokage-sama, we leave at dawn. This is going to be a long mission, so pack enough for at least a week. Kakashi said, addressing the genin. The 2 teams exited the tower and the jonin left their genin to their own vices. So how have you guys been? I haven't seen you guys since graduation. Naruto asked his former classmates. I've been well, Naruto-san. Shino said from behind his collar. Don't worry about us, Uzumaki, just don't get in our way on this mission. Kiba said, puffing out his chest. A small bark could be heard from inside his jacket. A small white dog appeared. I know Akamaru, he's never been the brightest. Naruto said, talking to the dog. Just make sure not to get in our way, Mutt. Sasuke said from beside Naruto. How about I smash your pretty little face, Uchiha? Kiba said, lunging at Sasuke, only to be held back by Shino. I would like to see you try Inuzuka. Sasuke said, being held back by Naruto. Come on, Sasuke, he's not worth it. Sakura said, trying to calm down. Yeah, come on, Sasuke, we have nothing to prove, let's go. Naruto said, dragging him away. Fine, I have to go home anyway. Sasuke said, walking away. Yeah, me too, see you guys in the morning. Sakura said. I guess I have to get home too, guys. It was nice talking to you guys. Naruto said, turning around, bumping into someone. He stood up and looked down to find Hinata sitting on the ground. He immediately helped her up. Hey Hinata, I'm sorry I didn't see you there. He said, pulling her up. It's fine, Naruto-kun, I have to go. She said before running off. It seems we all someplace to be. Come on Kiba, we must go. Goodbye, Naruto-san. Shino said, slightly bowing before pulling Kiba away. Everybody seems to be in a hurry. I guess they just wanted extra time to prepare for the mission. Speaking of mission, I need to go get packed and tell mom. Naruto thought to himself. Teams 7 and 8 were gathered at the northern gate about to leave for their mission. The genin were eager to start their first mission outside of the village, though some showed their excitement more than others. Watch out, world, Kiba Inuzuka is coming. Kiba shouted to no one in particular. Kiba, quiet, people are still asleep now, check your pack before we go. Kurenai told Kiba in a scolding tone. Why aren't you yelling at Naruto, he doesn't even have a bag. Kiba said, checking his bag one last time. The rest of the genin sans Sasuke looked at Naruto, he smiled and pulled a medium-sized scroll that hung from his lower back. He put it on the ground and rolled it out, it was about 3 feet in length. Kai, he said, forming the tiger hand seal. In an instant the scroll was covered with camping supplies, weapons and clothes. That's why now both of you hurry up, we still have a schedule to keep. Kakashi said. How far is the land of hot water from here, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto asked, resealing his scroll. It's a 2-day trip from here, so let's go. Kakashi commanded. The group set out to their destination. The land of hot water was located between the land of frost and the land of rice paddies and northeast of the land of fire. It used to have a hidden village until they decided that it would be best they get rid of it and become a peaceful village. Some of its shinobi didn't like it and became missing nin, and some of the loyal ones either retired or became shinobi for hire. The team had been traveling for a day and made camp to rest for the night. They were on a tight schedule. Their contact was known to have sporadic movements, but the genin weren't used to such prolonged periods of traveling. Though some fared better than others, Naruto, who seemed to have endless stamina, was sweating lightly while Sasuke and Kiba looked winded. The other 3 genin didn't look so good, although Shino didn't show it. Exhaustion showed in every step he took. The Konoha nin were sitting around the fire while Kakashi gave out sentry duties. Naruto, since you have the most energy, you will take up first watch with Kurenai, then Kiba, Sasuke, and I will relieve you in few hours. The rest of you get some rest because we have a long day ahead of us tomorrow. Kakashi said, walking to his sleeping bag. So Naruto, besides the abundance of energy you seem to have, why did Kakashi pick you to be a lookout? Kurenai asked Naruto as they walked to their post. 2 reasons, Kurenai-sensei. The first is a secret, but I can show the second. Naruto, forming a hand seal as 6 clones popped in existence in front of him. I'll let that first part slide, but knowing Kage Bunshin at your age is impressive, and being able to create that amount is even more impressive. Kurenai said, walking away to scout the area. I want you 4 to secure the perimeter, and you 2 come with me, I have something to do. Naruto said, running into the darkness. It was early morning and the group was on the move again. The night before was uneventful. Kakashi decided that they should move and get to their destination early because they couldn't depend on Kishi staying in one place for too long. The genin were well rested and food in their stomach, so the jonin decided to move at a faster speed since they didn't have far to go. The shinobi were silent while speeding through the treetops until one of the genin spoke up. Kurenai-sensei, have you ever been to the land of hot water? Hinata asked. No, I have not, Hinata. I've been to the border, but this is my first time actually stepping foot in this country. Kurenai answered. What about you, Kakashi-sensei? Hinata asked, looking at Kakashi. I've been here many times since the daimyo got rid of their hidden village. We get a lot of missions from them. Kakashi answered, keeping his eyes forward. Why do they need us if they're not a shinobi village anymore? Kiba asked, getting different reactions from his comrades. You can't be serious, Kiba. Naruto said in incredulous tone. Kiba looked around at everyone and they seemed to have the same look on their face. No, I was just joking around. Kiba said, looking down. Well, just in case you were serious, the need for shinobi is high for a place like this. Kakashi said. What do you mean, Kakashi-sensei? Shino asked in his monotone voice. Yes, sensei, what makes this place so special? Sakura added. He means since this place is in between 2 major villages and 1 minor one, that they have a lot of ninja traveling through here. Sasuke said with a bored look on his face. And since they no longer have a ninja village of their own, they rely on other villages, mainly us. Naruto finished. Ah, well put, you two. Like Sasuke and Naruto said, they no longer have a shinobi village, but they have been quite successful in their time without. Kakashi said. How do you two know so much? I thought Sakura was the bookworm. Kiba asked. Well, if you paid attention, Sasuke started to retort before Kakashi raised his hand signaling them to stop. Kakashi, what's wrong? Why are we stop? Kurenai asked, looking confused. She did have the best senses, but as far as she could tell, they were alone. There was a sudden surge of chakra just now. Naruto, do you feel that? Kakashi asked in a hushed tone. Naruto closed his eyes in concentration for a few seconds before opening them again. Yes, but's faint and seems to be moving away from us. Naruto whispered, getting a look from everyone except Kakashi. Hinata, do you think you could see them with your Byakugan? Kakashi asked. It's not the strongest, but I can try. Byakugan. Hinata whispered as the veins around her eyes bulged. Did you see anyone? Sakura asked. No, whoever it was is out of my range now. Hinata answered, sounding a little disappointed. Kurenai heard the disappointment in her sole female student's voice. She wanted to tell the girl that she was a big help and she had no reason to be disappointed, but now was not the time. They were on their first C-rank mission and it seemed as if they had been spied on. Well, at least my suspicions were confirmed, but we still have to keep moving, just be alert. Kakashi said as he started to run again. Suspicions? What are you talking about, Kakashi? Kurenai asked, a little peeved that Kakashi didn't tell her about his suspicions. This morning when we broke camp, one felt like I was being watched, but I had no proof until now. Kakashi answered. But if this person could follow us for this long without revealing themselves, why would they risk it now? Sakura asked. My guess would be they were going to warn someone. Kakashi said. This was just supposed to be a retrieval mission, but it may turn into something. Kurenai said in a serious tone. Maybe now I'll get to show how awesome I am. Kiba said a bit loudly. You'll have to hold off on that, for we are here. Kakashi said as they stepped out of the forests into beautiful green plains. The land of hot water was a mix of the different countries surrounding it. It got the plant life of the land of fire and the mountainous terrain of the land of lightning. The village they were headed to was just beyond the border of the land of fire. The village was not a big one, a population not even over 100, most of the inhabitants were merchants. Where are we supposed to be meeting? Be our contact, Kakashi? Kurenai asked as they checked into their rooms at a small inn called Spring Haven. It's best if I go meet Kishi alone. His lifestyle makes him a very dangerous person and he is not too fond of strangers. Kakashi said in a serious tone. So then this guy is your friend? Naruto asked. I wouldn't call him a friend, but he's not exactly our enemy either. I'll see you guys when I get back. Kakashi said, disappearing. We got 4 rooms. Kiba, you're with Shino, Naruto and Sasuke, you're together, and girls, you're with me. Kurenai said, handing out the room keys. What about Kakashi-sensei? Sasuke asked. Kakashi got himself a room before he left, so don't worry about him. Just get to your rooms and get yourselves clean. Kurenai said, addressing the genin. With Shino and Kiba, do you think we'll run into any trouble, Shino? Kiba asked. The person who spied on us before is most likely a scout for a larger, so I would say yes, Kiba-san. Shino replied in his ever-so-present stoic tone. If we do, I'll show those bastards not to mess with Konoha. Kiba said aloud. We don't know the strength of our enemy, so direct confrontation is unwise at the moment. Shino said, walking off into the shower. Yeah, just hurry out the shower. Kiba said, throwing himself on his bed. With Naruto and Sasuke. What do you think Kakashi-sensei meant about our contact not being a friend but not an enemy either? Sasuke asked with a confused look. I don't really know. Kakashi-ni has always been kind of cryptic. Naruto said, putting on his nightshirt. So were you going to tell us that you could sense chakra? Sasuke asked. A shinobi is allowed to have secrets, Sasuke, but I guess it's not a secret anymore. Naruto said with a sigh. Yeah, you needed something to be able to keep up with me. Sasuke said with a smirk. I guess I would if you were actually ahead of me. Naruto said, smirking back. Sounds like you need some sleep. Sasuke said, lying down. Sasuke was met with silence as Naruto was already out like a light. Kurenai, Hinata and Sakura. Hinata, it wasn't your fault that the spy got away earlier, I hope you know that. Kurenai said, getting in big sister mode. I know, Kurenai-sensei, it's just I always come up short when it's my time. Hinata said with her head down. Keep your head held high, Hinata, you have something to be proud about, now try and get some sleep. Kurenai said, lifting Hinata's head with her hand. Okay, Kurenai-sensei. Hinata said, walking to her bed. Kurenai walked over to the door to the bathroom and knocked on it. Sakura, you've been in there too long, come on out. Kurenai said, standing outside the door. I'll be out in a minute. Sakura's voice came from inside the shower. Kurenai walked away mumbling something about fangirls and their bad habits. Sakura finally came out of the shower a few minutes later. Hinata was sleeping and Kurenai seemed to be in a meditative state on her bed. Sakura walked over to her bed and started brushing her hair. Sakura, Kurenai said from behind Sakura, making her jump. Oh, you scared me, Kurenai-sensei, do you want something? Sakura said, still brushing her hair. Sakura, you are a shinobi now and you need to start acting like it. Kurenai said in a stern tone. What do you mean, Kurenai-sensei? Sakura asked, genuinely confused. The whole trip here I saw you staring at Sasuke, and just now you were in the shower for a long time and you used scented shampoo. Kurenai told her. But Sakura started before she was cut off. But nothing, if you want to be a shinobi then start acting like it. Now get some sleep, we have a big day tomorrow. Kurenai said, walking away. Tears started to fall from Sakura's eyes. She was trying her hardest and everybody kept telling her to do better. She didn't know what she was doing wrong. She cried for a few more minutes until she cried herself to sleep. Hinata had been woken up by the voices. She heard what Kurenai said to Sakura and felt sorry for her, but Kurenai was right. If Sakura wanted to continue being a shinobi, she would have to commit herself to getting better. The next morning everybody was told to meet in the lobby to discuss the information Kakashi got from their contact. Everybody was there besides one person. Akamaru, who sat beside his master, barked a few times. "I know, boy. Where is that blonde bastard?" Kiba asked angrily. Everybody looked at Sasuke since he was Naruto's roommate. "Don't look at me, he wasn't in the room when I woke up," Sasuke said. "So we have a stray genin on the loose while on a mission?" Kurenai asked, getting irritated. "I'm sure he'll be here soon, don't worry," Kakashi said, reading his book. A few minutes later Naruto casually walked into the lobby with his hands in his pockets. Everybody had their eyes on him as he walked and sat down next to Kakashi. "Do you mind telling us where you've been, Naruto?" Kakashi asked from behind his book. "I went to get some ramen this morning and a toad gave me a note," Naruto said, getting Kakashi's attention. "What did it say?" Kakashi asked in serious tone. "I think we should go somewhere private," Naruto suggested. "That would be a good idea, come on everybody, let's go to my room," Kakashi said, getting up. Everybody sat around Kakashi's room waiting for Naruto to finish putting up his privacy seals. He had 3 clones putting seals on the other walls. The 3 clones disappeared, signaling that their job is done. Naruto finished his and sat down with everyone else. "So Naruto, what did the toad say, Naruto?" Kurenai asked. "I think Kakashi should tell us what Kishi told him first," Naruto said. "I guess that's what we were planning to do anyway," Kakashi said before continuing. "When I met with Kishi, he told me that the artifact had been stolen by bandits the day before we got here. He gave me the location of the bandit camp, but I'm not sure if you guys are ready for what's needed," he finished. "Well, the note from my dad confirms that it's been stolen, but it also said that these aren't just bandits, they're being organized by some unknown ninja," Naruto said in a grim tone. "Did it say anything about these ninja?" Sasuke asked. "The only thing it said was these ninja wear headbands with music symbols on them," Naruto said. "You guys might get your first kills if we go through with this. Are you all ready for that?" Kakashi asked. Their different reactions from all the genin, Naruto, Sasuke and Shino gave a nod with no hesitation, surprising Kurenai. Kiba hesitated before giving his nod as well, followed by Hinata. Now all eyes were on Sakura. Sweat rolled down the sides of her face, her eyes scrunched and thought. "It's your choice, Sakura, and if you don't want to, we won't do this," Kakashi said softly. Sakura was scared. She didn't know if she could kill if it came to it, but she didn't want to be the reason for her friends being held back. When she was young, her parents used to go on missions together, and when they came back her dad would be hurt. But there was one time where he was really hurt and she cried all night hoping her father would be okay. The injury he received caused him to retire. She went to visit him at the hospital, and while he was asleep she promised herself that she would get strong enough to protect her family so this wouldn't happen again. Somewhere along the line she lost herself, and now was the time to find herself again. "I'm in, I want to do it," Sakura said with newfound conviction as she looked at Kurenai, who gave her a smile and an approving nod. "Good, now I'll take Naruto and Hinata to scope this place out and see what we're dealing with," Kakashi said. "What's so special about this thing that we're supposed to be retrieving?" Kiba asked Kurenai. "As far as I know, it's a special stone from the time of the Shodai," Kurenai responded. "So we're on a mission to bring a rock back?" Kiba yelled. "I'm sure it's more than just a rock, Kiba," Sakura said from beside Kurenai. "She's right, Kiba-san, and even if it is just a rock, I'm sure it has some value to it," Shino said. "It doesn't matter, our mission is to bring the stone back to the village, and that's what we're going to do," Kurenai sternly said. "I wonder where these shinobi are from. I've never heard of a village that has a music note as its symbol," Sasuke randomly blurted out, causing his comrades to look at him as if he grew a third eye. "I was wondering the same thing. Kurenai-sensei, do you know anything about these shinobi?" Sakura spoke up for the first time since she agreed to continue the mission. "No, actually this is the first time I'm hearing about these shinobi," Kurenai answered. "Let's hope Kakashi-sensei, Naruto and Hinata come back with more information than that," Sasuke said, walking away. Hour later, Kakashi and the genin came back and everybody was back in Kakashi's room to hear the information. "Now that we have everyone here, we can brief you all on what we found out. Hinata, you can start," Kakashi said, stepping out of Hinata's way. She stood and walked to the center of the room. The bandits have a camp on the far north edge of the village and they are far enough that we don't have to worry about civilians getting caught in the crossfire. From my observation I counted 80 bandits and 5 shinobi according to their chakra levels. She finished walking back to her seat. Naruto stood and walked to the center of the room to take her place. From what I observed they have 5 groups of 2 simultaneously patrolling the camp. The group consists of the 30 bandits Hinata mentioned before who are not much a threat alone but could cause problems in high numbers. The shinobi who are leading them could cause problems but nothing we can't handle. Naruto said before walking back to his seat. Great job you two, Kakashi said standing up. Now as Naruto said these bandits are average and won't be a problem but I think you should leave the ninja to Kurenai and I. He finished with his patented eye smile. So what's the plan sensei? Naruto asked with his arms folded. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. Kakashi started. Later that day, the sun was beginning to go down and the Konoha group was starting to put their plan into action. The bandit camp was hidden among the large trees of the forest on the outskirts of town. From their perch the Konoha ninja could see their enemy casually walking around camp but soon chaos would erupt throughout the camp as the leaf ninja sprang into action. A shower of shuriken and kunai rained upon the camp. Screams of unfortunate bandits could be heard as their flesh was pierced by the thrown weapons. Team 8 could be seen fighting off multiple enemies. Kiba and Akamaru fending off attacks. Bandits dropping at the lack of chakra as Kakaichu buzzed around them. Hinata danced around her opponents sealing their tenketsu with a jab of her fingers. An explosion shook the ground causing them to stumble. They looked to the back of the camp to see a fire raging quickly overtaking its surrounding. With Team 7, Kaden. Gokakyu no Jutsu. Sasuke announced before a large fireball left his mouth. The fire dispersed revealing burnt corpse of a few unfortunate men. Sasuke knew that he killed the man who had been hit by the fireball. He had never taken a human life before but he had been exposed to death on a much larger scale. He shook the guilty thoughts out of his mind and moved on to his next victims. He turned to see 2 men charging him with their swords raised. As soon as they were close enough his right leg buried into the stomach of the one on his left sending him reeling backwards. He jumped backwards to dodge a sword strike, quickly touching the seals on his bracers launching shuriken that were instantly buried in his target's head. A feminine scream grabbed his attention as he sped off to find the source. Naruto weaved through hand seals as he ran through the camp. He jumped in the air to dodge a group of bandits in front of him. He finished his hand seals at the peak of his jumped, futon, Renkuden. He whispered before compressed balls of air shot from his mouth pounding into the bandits below him. Naruto landed and looked at the mess he just created. The bandits were mangled bodies torn apart by the highly compressed chakra-laced wind bullets. He had never seen a dead body or taken a life but his parents had prepared him for this moment from a young age. They knew he would be a shinobi. His dad used to tell him that one day he would be tasked to defend the village and killing would be a part of that. He asked his dad if he ever felt guilty about killing and he told him he did but if he had to do it again he would. He told him that the feeling of his family and friends being safe crushed the guilt every time it bothered him. So he would be like his father, he would kill to keep his precious people safe. He was taken out of his thoughts as a scream rang throughout the camp. He vanished to find the source. Sakura had sneaking into the back of the camp as she had been instructed as her comrades had been out there fighting risking their lives for the village. Kakashi knew she wasn't ready to take a life so he had tasked her to find the stone while the others kept the bandits occupied. When the fighting started the tents were empty and she began searching. So far she had not found anything and luckily hadn't run into anyone. She spotted a big tent that looked better than the others and figured that it was where the stone would be. She stepped inside. It wasn't anything special but she could tell someone important slept here. The sheets looked better and the quality of the items inside was much better than the other tents. She spotted a box towards the back of the tent. It was a simple wooden box. She opened it and inside was a crystal gem. She put it in her pouch turning to leave when a hand on her shoulder stopped her. She looked up to a large man with a horizontal scar on his left eye. The man's appearance was enough to make her scream as he covered his ears. His beefy hand slammed across her cheek causing the scream to come to a stop. Now what would a little girl like you want with that? The man said pointing the stone in her pouch before picking her up by her collar and walking outside the tent. The sight before them was one of chaos. Bodies everywhere, fire spreading throughout the camp and weapons sprawled on the ground. Now that my team is here, we will figure out what to do with you, and then we'll find your teammates and wipe you leaf scum out," he said, snarling as 4 figures appeared in front of him. The first was short with long black hair and pale skin. The second was a hulk of a man with orange hair. His gauntlet-covered arms were folded and a snarl on his face. The third was an average-height man with leering green eyes and an eerie smile on his face. The last one was a woman with red eyes and a permanent scowl on her face. They all wore the same outfit, gray tunic with a purple rope wrapped around their waist. Well, what do we have here?" the woman said, walking towards Sakura and taking the stone from her pouch. "I caught snooping around in your tent," the scarred man responded. "Good job, Jigumo. What about her team, the ones who did all of this?" she asked, pointing at the carnage in front of them. "They're unaccounted for," the Jigumo started. "Looking for us?" Kakashi said as his team stood behind him. "You should give the girl back if you know what's good for you," Kiba said, stepping forward. Kurenai grabbed his arm as he stepped again before she gave him a bone-chilling glare. "You should learn how to control your dog's Sharingan no Kakashi," she said with a glint in her eye. "Oh, so you have heard of me," Kakashi said playfully before becoming serious. "Then you know you won't leave here alive," he finished. "On the contrary, if you want this little whore back, then you will stay put while my team and I take this stone back to our master," she said, holding the stone in the air. "Who might your master be?" Kakashi asked. "I cannot tell you that, but I can tell you that the sound is rising and it will tear through the elemental nations." Kakashi knew he was at a disadvantage. They had leverage and he couldn't. No, he wouldn't lose a student on their first C-rank mission. "Fine, as it seems we have no choice," Kakashi said, surprising the genin of Team 8, but the others knew Kakashi and they knew he wouldn't do something this reckless without a plan. "How are you going to let them just take Sakura and the stone like that, you coward?" Kiba screamed, being held back by Hinata and Shino. "Kiba-san, calm down, I'm sure Kakashi-sensei has a plan," Shino whispered in his teammate's ear. "My, isn't he a rambunctious one? I would to stay and help out with inter-village quarrels, but we have a mission to complete," she said before turning around and taking off with her team and Sakura. As soon as they were out of range, a heavy pressure fell upon those in the camp. The genin were on their knees holding their throats as if choking. Although she was standing, if you looked at her closely you could see Kurenai's knees were buckling, ready to collapse under the pressure at any second. The only one who seemed unaffected was Kakashi as he walked towards Kiba and a whimpering Akamaru. "Don't you ever in your pathetic life go against a superior's orders again, or you will hope that you were never born," he said, cutting off his killing intent. The genin gasped for breath as they shakily stood up. Kurenai walked over to Kakashi. "Was that really necessary?" she asked. "Yes, it was. Not only did he question my decision, but he did it on a mission in front of our enemy. He has to learn to take orders without question. We don't have time for this. We have to act fast if we want to get Sakura and the stone back," Kakashi said, walking over to the genin. "So what are we going to do about Sakura-sensei?" Naruto asked with his arms once again folded. "Kurenai, I want you to take Shino and Hinata back to town. I'll take the rest and we'll pursue them," Kakashi ordered. Kurenai looked as if she wanted to argue but decided against it. Kakashi was leader of this mission. "Okay, come on guys," Kurenai said, taking her students with her. Kakashi and the boys wasted no time in chasing after Sakura and her captors. They had been chasing them for a few minutes in silence, but someone decided that silence wasn't good. "I'm not questioning your choice or anything, Kakashi-sensei, but why did you bring me and send the rest of my team back?" Kiba asked nervously, reminding himself of what happened minutes earlier. "Your nose will come in handy. Since they weren't at camp, that means they were coming from somewhere else, which means they'll have to take a break, and that's when we'll strike," Kakashi said, focused on the trees ahead of him. "So what are we going to do when we get there? They outnumber us," Sasuke said from beside Kakashi. "Don't worry, their numbers will be lowered before any combat starts, but when it does you guys will have to team up because these shinobi are above your level at the moment," Kakashi told them. Kiba suddenly stopped, causing everyone else to stop too. "I smell flowers," he said, looking confused, but looks of relief appeared on the others' faces. "I guess Sakura's fangirl ways finally paid off," Sasuke said. "With the sound ninja, do you really think the legendary Sharingan no Kakashi is going to give up that easy?" the pale man asked. "No, I don't, Taro, but he won't pursue immediately, and when he does come we will be long gone," she said. What are we going to do with this little wench Kirai? The giant asked, walked towards Sakura. Kill her, Kirai said nonchalantly. Too bad, sweetheart, I was going to show you a good time. He said with a menacing smile, raising his hand to smash her skull. You sick bastard, she's not even. The green-eyed man started to say before a kunai pierced his mouth from the back of his neck as he dropped dead. Kirai, Taro and Jigumo moved to save their teammates but were stopped by a wall of flame. The giant didn't get the chance to turn around before a lightning-enveloped hand tore through his chest. Kakashi appeared from behind him, pulling his hand out and throwing him to the ground. A second Kakashi appeared beside him, untying Sakura. Sakura, I want you to go with this clone. He's going to take you back to town. Kurenai is going to be there. Kakashi told her. Yes, Kakashi-sensei, she said sadly, turning to leave with the clone before being stopped by Kakashi. Hey Sakura, you did a good job, he said, eyes smiling. Thank you, sensei, she said before leaving. Now to deal with these fools, Kakashi said, vanishing into the shadows. Kakashi appeared above the trees where the genin were. The wall of fire that Naruto and Sasuke created had dissipated. 1. The sound ninja had a mix of confusion and anger on their faces. He looked to the genin, giving them a nod as they jumped down to greet them. Give us the stone and we might let you leave here alive, Kakashi said, adding a little key to make a point. Do you think that 3 little genin and 1 jonin can take on 3 jonin-level shinobi from the Otogakure? She asked, a little offended. Well, these aren't your everyday genin and I'm not your usual jonin, so let me introduce you. Kakashi started. This is Kiba Inuzuka, son of Inuzuka clan matriarch, Sasuke Uchiha, brother of Itachi and cousin of Shisui, and last but not least we have Naruto Uzumaki, son of Minato Namikaze Yondaime Hokage and Kushina Uzumaki, Kakashi said, pointing at the genin. I don't care who you are, I'm getting tired of this, kill them, she said as Jigumo and Taro sprang forward only to be intercepted by the genin. Seeing the genin able to hold their own against her teammates, she turned to run, knowing this was a losing battle, but didn't make it 2 steps before a glowing white light blinded her. The light died down to reveal Kakashi standing over a headless Kirai with a glowing white tanto. He bent down and took the stone from her body. He jumped to get a better view of the fight that was going on between the genin and the sound ninja. For now he would spectate, but if need be he would step in. Kiba ducked under a right jab from Jigumo before getting on all fours with Akamaru on his back. Jujin Bunshin. A puff of smoke later revealed to Kiba, but he didn't get a chance to move before a piercing sound reached his ears, causing both Kiba to howl in pain. He looked over to see Taro playing a flute. Stupid mutt, now you have to die, Jigumo said, stomping towards. I don't think so, Naruto said, jumping, hitting Jigumo in the face, causing him to stumble before Sasuke came and swept his legs from under him. Not wasting time, Naruto threw a single kunai at Taro before weaving through hand seals, turning the single kunai into 100. Taro didn't stop playing, but the sound of his tone changed before the kunai could hit a red barrier erected around him. Naruto cursed and created 10 Bunshin as Sasuke started to form more hand seals before Naruto grabbed him and ran in the opposite direction as spikes of earth erupted where he once stood. He looked at Naruto and found 2 Kiba beside them. Thanks, Uzumaki, Kiba said. No problem, but how are we going to deal with these guys while they aren't Jonin level like that woman said? They are above us in skill, Naruto said. It seems that the smaller uses jutsu that revolve around the use of his flute. If we get that away from him, then it's over for him. As for the big guy, we can worry about him after we take out the smaller one, Sasuke suggested, getting nods from Naruto and Kiba. Naruto blinked as he got the memories of his clones. Okay Sasuke, how about you use of those fancy wire tricks to get his flute away from him and I'll handle the rest, Naruto said. Wait, what about me and Akamaru? Kiba asked. Can you use Gatsuga? Naruto asked. Yeah, but it's not that strong, he said. It doesn't matter, I need you to distract the big guy for a moment, Naruto told him. I can do that, let's go, Kiba said excitedly, taking off. Come on Sasuke, let's get this done so we can go home, Naruto said with Sasuke behind him. Jigumo was angry. These little bastards were hiding and these little blonde clones kept attacking him and Taro. A vicious smile appeared on his face as the genin jumped down in front of him. So the kiddies came back to play, let's go, he said, stepping forward. Gatsuga, Kiba yelled as he and Akamaru drilled into Jigumo's chest. Sasuke didn't waste time as his wires latched onto Taro's flute. Taro, noticing the wires on his flute, began to pull back before, but Sasuke had a way to make him let go. Raiden. Shogeki Genko. Sasuke announced as lightning arched down the wires, electrocuting Taro. He fell to the ground convulsing, his eyes widened as another rain of kunai fell upon him. This time he helplessly struggled as he was pierced by the kunai. A few seconds later he lay dead. Naruto turned to see Kiba flying his way. He caught him before he could hit the ground. Jigumo was walking their way and he didn't look happy. "It's over now, I'm go," he started to say before falling unconscious. His huge body fell to reveal an eye-smiling Kakashi. He took a scroll out of one of the pockets on his vest. "Sensei, what are you doing?" Sasuke asked in confusion. "This is a preservation scroll and we have questions that he has the answers to," Kakashi said as Jigumo's body disappeared in a puff of smoke. "We should get back, Kiba got kicked pretty hard," Naruto said with an unconscious Kiba on his shoulder. "Yes, Akamaru is pretty beat up too," Sasuke said with Akamaru in his arms. "Yeah, no one left without any scratches, let's go," Kakashi said looking at his genin who had scratches and cut over their bodies, although he himself didn't get touched. The boys had gotten back to the inn and were met by a worried Sakura at the door. They took Kiba and Akamaru upstairs to rest. Everyone else joined back in Kakashi's room to discuss what happened. Kurenai was a bit surprised that Naruto and Sasuke could kill so easily, but then again they weren't your everyday genin. In the end they retrieved the stone, which meant a successful mission. Kakashi told everyone to get some rest as they had a long trip ahead of them. The group had just gotten back to Konoha. After a day of non-stop traveling they were happy to be home. Although they didn't travel on foot, they still just completed their first C-rank mission. Kiba was back up and moving. He had just taken a hard hit to the head. "Naruto, your freaking frogs are awesome. I wonder if Akamaru will be able to talk," Kiba thought aloud. "They're frogs, Kiba, you better not let them hear you say that. They hate when people call them frogs," Naruto said. "Settle down, kids. You guys can go home, Kurenai and I will go debrief with the Hokage," Kakashi said before turning to his team. "Team 7, meet me at our usual training grounds at 7 a.m. Kakashi said before vanishing in a spark of electricity. "Same goes for you, Team 8, meet me at our training grounds," Kurenai said, vanishing in a cloud of sakura blossoms. "Show-offs," Kiba mumbled. Akamaru barked in agreement. "I need to go tell my mom about our mission, see ya," Naruto said, smirking before his body exploded into water, drenching those around him. Sasuke scoffed as if he could do better before disappearing in a torrent of fire. "I have to learn that freaking show-offs," Kiba angrily said. "That would be unwise, Kiba-san, as you would need to become proficient in the Shunshin technique first, then you would need to find out your elemental affinity, then you would need to train it." Shino finished surprising his friends. "Shino, I have never heard you say so much. I have to go," Sakura said, walking away. Kiba walked away mumbling something about know-it-all Aburame and show-offs. It left Hinata and Shino standing there. "I would like to inform my parents of our recent success. Goodbye, Hinata-san," Shino said before turning around and walking away. Hinata stood there alone thinking to herself, although she didn't get to do much, she was a big part in getting information on the bandits. She wanted to get home and tell her family about her first C-rank mission. Hokage's office. Kakashi and Kurenai stood in front of the Hokage. They were proud of their students' performance on their first C-rank mission. Although there's some bumps in the road, the mission was still a success. "So how did the mission?" Minato asked from behind his desk. "It was a success. We were able to take out a bandit group and retrieve the stone," Kakashi said, placing the stone on the desk. "The bandits were being led by shinobi from an unknown village," Kurenai added. "Ah, you must mean the sound shinobi," Minato said. "Yes, do you know anything about them, sensei?" Kakashi asked. "Just that they started popping up all over the place a few months ago, recruiting people into their forces, and at first I thought nothing of it until I got reports that entire clans were leaving with them," Minato answered. "Well, I have one of the sound shinobi in a preservation scroll. Let's hope we can get some information out of him," Kakashi said. "Good job as always, overachieving," Minato said as he smiled at his student. "I'm just doing my job, sensei," Kakashi modestly responded. "Enough of that, tell me how the genin performed," Minato said, instantly getting serious. Kakashi and Kurenai shared a look before nodding. They performed exceedingly well. Although they hesitated to kill the bandits they fought, with the exception of Naruto and Sasuke. Kurenai said before getting a confused look on her face. By the way, what happened to the bandits that weren't killed? Kurenai asked, looking at Kakashi. After you guys left, I sent a clone to the camp who destroyed it and made sure it looked like nothing was ever there. He answered. Well, you can't expect genin fresh out the academy to kill so easily, they have to let their minds mature. Minato sagely said. What about Naruto and Sasuke? It seemed as if they have been doing it their whole life. Kurenai said. Those two are exceptions, Kushina, and I made sure that Naruto would be ready for every aspect of the shinobi life and Sasuke the same, but when his clan was massacred with the exception of a few, death became a part of his life even more so than other shinobi. Minato explained. I have an idea about the stone, but tell me what's so special about it. Kakashi said. I'm sure you figured it out, but if you didn't, this is the same stone that the Shodai's necklace was made from, but this piece is different. Minato said, electing a gasp from Kurenai and curious look from Kakashi. What makes this piece so different? Kakashi asked. This piece can suppress and absorb Biju chakra. Minato said. The Jonin in front of him as well as the ones hidden in the shadows grew wide eyes. Do you think that whoever is in charge of the sound ninja knew about this? Kurenai asked, recovering from her shock. I would think so, but it could have been taken just for its value, but we have to assume they did know. Minato answered. Then we're lucky we got it back. Kurenai said. Kakashi, you take the prisoner to the T&I division, and Kurenai, you are dismissed. I expect a written mission report from both of you. Minato said with his Hokage voice. Yes, Hokage-sama, the Jonin said in unison before disappearing. Naruto had gotten home and found his mom in the kitchen cooking dinner. They talked about his mission and how they fought the ninja. He told her he had gotten his first kills. Although she knew this day would come, she was still a worried mother. Her 13-year-old son had killed, but she knew he would be fine. She and Minato made sure of that. She was taken out of her thoughts by Naruto waving his hand in front of her. What is it, honey? Did you want something? She asked. I asked you if you could practice my kenjutsu with me. He said. Not today, Ruto-kun, I have to finish this food. Kushina said, walking back to the stove. Okay, I'm going to see if Sasuke is up for some training, be back later. Naruto said, walking out the door. The Uchiha compound was on the far east side of Konoha. After the massacre there were only 10 Uchiha left, 7 were on missions. Itachi and Shisui were in a meeting with Minato, and Sasuke was spending the night at Naruto's house. No one knows who did it, but whoever did was in and out before anyone realized it, but there's speculations that it was an inside job as 2 Uchiha were unaccounted for after the massacre. Naruto was shaken out of his thoughts as he heard something. In front of him stood 2 dark-haired men, presumably Uchiha. Is there something I can do for you? The taller one said. I'm here to see Sasuke. Naruto responded, folding his arms. Sasuke-sama is busy training with Itachi-sama, so you can leave. The other one spoke up. Let the kid in and stop being assholes. A man said with short, spiky black hair sitting atop the wall. As you wish, Shisui-sama. The tall said, opening the gate. It's good to see you again, Naruto. It's been a while, how have you been? Shisui asked, walking with Naruto. I'm good, Shisui, how have you been? Naruto asked, arms still folded. You know, an assassination here and an assassination there. He said casually. Sounds great. Naruto said awkwardly. Here to train with Sasuke? Shisui asked. Yeah, I need help. Naruto started before Shisui grabbed him and disappeared. They appeared at an apparent training ground. Sasuke was seen fighting against what could be a twin just taller. The taller one noticed the newcomers and jumped back from Sasuke. Naruto-san, it's been a while, what brings you here? He said in a monotone voice. I came to see if Sasuke wanted to help me train my kenjutsu. Naruto said. Normally I would jump at the chance to train with you, but Itachi thought that today would be a great day to not hold back. Sasuke said with bruises and cuts all over him. Little brother, you told me about your mission and said you wanted to get stronger. Itachi shot back. I didn't say kick my face in. Sasuke yelled before walking away. Pain is the weakness leaving your body. Itachi said, following after Sasuke. Naruto stood there with his mouth open. He had come here to see if Sasuke wanted to train, only to be left standing alone. He would just go home and wait for his dad to come home. He turned to leave until a Shisui spoke up. He had almost forgotten he was there. I can help you train your kenjutsu if you want. Shisui suggested. That's fine with me. Naruto said, touching a seal on his wrist, causing a puff of smoke. The smoke dissipated to reveal two swords on his back, one over his right shoulder and one horizontally across the small of his back coming out on the left side. "Ah, the famous Uzumaki Daisho, it's an honor," Shisui said, bowing. "So you've heard of the Susanoo no Te?" Naruto said, looking at the swords in his hands. The first one was a katana, the right hand. It was made of a rare black metal found in the once Uzushiogakure. You could see intricate markings along the blade. The guard was in the design of a whirlpool, making it look like the blade was being swallowed by the handle, which was wrapped in a dark blue material with the Uzumaki swirl embroidered on it. The second one was a wakizashi. It looked exactly the same as the first besides the size difference. "I don't know much about them, but I know they're dangerous," Shisui said, pulling his tanto out. "You have no idea," Naruto said before disappeared from sight. He reappeared next to Shisui swinging the katana down. Shisui blocked without looking before disappearing himself. The next second Naruto had cuts all over his body as Shisui appeared in front of him, kicking him away. "I forgot you were so fast, but I'm fast too," Naruto said, disappearing again. This time he appeared above Shisui. "Uzumaki Ryu, Shinku Nami," Naruto said, swinging the blade down. Shisui brought his tanto up to block, creating a massive shockwave causing dust to fly in the air. The dust settled to reveal Naruto with his sword in the ground and Shisui nowhere to be found. Naruto looked around, seeing nothing. He turned to look elsewhere when something cold touched his neck. "Yield," Shisui said, sending chills down Naruto's spine. "I yield," Naruto said as Shisui let him go. "I see you two are having fun," Itachi said from the entrance, with a couple Uchiha behind him, including Sasuke, with their Sharingan spinning ready to pounce at any moment. "What was that boom we heard?" Sasuke asked from beside Itachi. "That was Naruto breaking my tanto," Shisui said, holding up his broken tanto. "Sorry about that, I can get you a new one," Naruto said as Shisui waved him off. "No need, this gives me an excuse to use my father's blade now. If you excuse, I have to clean myself off," he said, walking away covered in dust. "Impressive, Naruto-san. Not many people live long enough to fight Shisui, let alone close enough to break his blade," Itachi said, turning to leave. The other Uchiha followed, but Sasuke stayed. "Those are nice blades, why didn't you use them on the mission?" Sasuke asked. "It honestly slipped my mind," Naruto said, sealing the weapons. "I guess I'll see you tomorrow then," Sasuke said, walking away. "You know it," Naruto said before disappearing into thin air. Next day, the streets of Konoha were full with street merchants, sightseeing tourists and a young blonde in a hurry. Naruto had woken up late and was currently 20 minutes late to meet his team. To make it worse, his mom lectured him about being more responsible now that he was a shinobi, which took longer than he would like. He arrived to find Sasuke practicing his throwing technique on the training post and Sakura sitting cross-legged in a meditative state. Sasuke noticed him and walked over to him while Sakura sat still. "So you finally decided to show up?" Sasuke said, smirking. "What's up with her?" Naruto said, pointing a thumb at Sakura. "She was like that when I got here," Sasuke said, shrugging his shoulders. "She's doing an exercise I showed her," Kakashi said, walking up behind them. Sakura's hand twitched before her eyes started fluttering open. Yesterday on her way home she ran into Kakashi and they had a talk about her getting serious about being a kunoichi, and he showed her a meditation exercise to help her get in sync with her chakra. "So what's the plan for today, sensei?" Sakura asked. Naruto and Sasuke shared a look. He couldn't put his finger on it, but Sakura seemed different. He couldn't put his finger on it, but whatever it was a good change. "I have something different for all you, but I have something to do myself," Kakashi said as he felt a ping of chakra from his shoulder. "Then who's going to train us?" Sakura asked, a bit peeved. "These handsome gentlemen right here," Kakashi said as 3 copies of him appeared next to him. "So are you going to tell us what you're going to be teaching us?" Sasuke asked. "No, but they will," Kakashi said, pointing at the clones before disappearing. "I wonder what he is up to," Naruto thought aloud, walking away with one of the clones. "No matter how long I've known him, he gets weirder every day," Sasuke said, vanishing into the forest with his clone. Sakura was left alone in the clearing with the last clone that was busy flipping a kunai. She didn't have a normal team by any means, but they were her team. She walked over to the clone and tapped him on the shoulder. "So what are you supposed to be teaching me?" she asked. "First of all, we need to address your fighting skills," the clone answered. Why would we do that? I'm never going to be on the front lines like Naruto and Sasuke. Sakura complained. Wrong, it's the exact opposite. While you won't be the first choice, this team will be in all types of situations and you have to be ready for it. He explained. Sakura thought about it and remembered she wanted to change for the better so she wouldn't question her sensei anymore. I understand, sensei, Sakura said with fire burning in her eyes. Shanaru, we got this. Inner Sakura chimed in. Good, now let's get to work. The clone said, getting into a fighting stance. With Sasuke. Sasuke stood in the clearing as the clone hands flipped through hand seals. His hands came to a halt as he raised his hand in the air as hawks made of lightning sprung forward, hitting a tree, destroying it in the process. That was a jutsu a close friend from Sanagakure taught me during the war. The clone said. Sasuke's eye widened for a second before reverting back to his usual Uchiha scowl. Sasuke still kept his guard up. He couldn't show that an Uchiha was impressed by such a jutsu. Although there weren't many Uchiha left, he had to show that they were still the strongest. You seem unimpressed, the clone said, walking towards Sasuke. I've seen better, Sasuke replied. Then you don't want to learn it, that's fine with me. The clone said, turning to walk away. Sasuke wanted to keep up his Uchiha facade, but that was a jutsu that fit him. He fought back the Uchiha pride and called out to his teacher. Wait, sensei, I never said I didn't want to learn it. He said. Ah, that's what I thought. The clone said, turning back around. With Naruto. What ya got for me, Kakashi ni? Naruto asked with his arms folded once again. I hear that you've been working on some new seals, care to show me? The clone asked. Sure, here they are. Naruto says, pulling out two pieces of paper, one light blue and the other white. What do they do? Kakashi says, eyeing the seals curiously. This one, when activated, shoots a beam of chakra. The size of the beam depends on the amount of chakra used when activated. He said, pointing at the blue one. And this one is paralysis seal. He said, holding up the white one. Sounds like you don't need any help. The clone inquired. Well, I've got the chakra beam sealed down, but I need to find a way to add chakra to the paralysis seal without it burning out. Naruto told the clone. You happen to be in luck, binding seals are my specialty. The clone said, taking the seal from Naruto. With Kakashi. Kakashi stood in front of his sensei's empty desk with two other jonin. A dark gray-haired man stood on Kakashi's right side while a man with auburn hair that reached his back stood on his left. What do you guys think this is about? The auburn-haired man asked, getting the attention of the other two jonin. I'm perplexed myself. What could be so dire that Hokage-sama would need to call on two of his strongest jonin? No offense, Santa-san. The gray-haired man said. None taken, Hayama-san. It's an honor to work beside men such as yourselves. Santa replied. I have an idea, but... Kakashi said before being interrupted by a gust of wind. Minato appeared in front of them, sitting at his desk. I'm sure you gentlemen have questions, but you will wait until I'm finished, is that understood? Minato said in his Hokage voice. Hi Hokage-sama, the jonin chorused. I've called you three here because I just received word that a village on the northern edge of the Land of Fire has been destroyed by an unknown force. Minato said with venom in his tone. Destroyed as in can be rebuilt? Santa asked curiously. Destroyed as in nothing is left of it, but there are two young boys who survived being held at our outpost near there. Minato explained to them. I still don't see the need for three jonin. Kakashi said what they all were thinking. The ninjas stationed at the outpost have felt huge burst of chakra around the area. That's where you two come in. Minato said, pointing at Kakashi and Hayama. Santa is going because the boys are in a coma-like state, he finished. When do we leave, Hokage-sama? Hayama asked. Immediately, your destination is the northwestern post. Minato commanded. The jonin nodded. Hayama and Santa disappeared in a seal-less shunshin. Kakashi remained there, standing in front of his sensei. His shoulders dropped and his body language became relaxed. Sensei, what about my team? Kakashi asked. I've already taken that into consideration and it's being taken care of right now. Minato answered. I understand, sensei. Kakashi said before disappearing. Kakashi appeared in front the north gate. Hayama and Santa stood there waiting for him, ready for the mission. Kakashi knew this mission had to be serious for his sensei to send him and Hayama together. Kakashi himself was S rank and Hayama was A rank. Whatever or whoever destroyed that village must have set the Hokage on edge. Back with Team 7, Naruto had just finished improving his paralysis seal when something hit him in the back of the head, knocking him out. He felt something tight wrapped around him. He looked down to find himself tied to a training post. He heard some mumbling around him. He turned to find his teammates in the same predicament. "Do you guys know what's going on?" Naruto asked his teammates. "No, one moment I was practicing genjutsu with the clone and the next I'm here," Sakura answered. "Same here, except it was a new lightning jutsu," Sasuke said. "That's weird, who?" Naruto was cut off by a cloud of smoke appearing in front of them. A sudden gust of wind blew the smoke away. The wind revealed two men with black hair and black eyes. They stood side by side. On their arms was the symbol for the military police. Sasuke took a look at them, making his eyes widen. "Itachi, Shisui, what are you two doing here?" Sasuke basically yelled. The silence at training ground 1 was awkward one. Itachi and Shisui stood silent, their dark eyes focused on the genin in front of them. Naruto was getting restless and decided to break the silence. "Would you mind telling us why we are tied up?" Naruto calmly asked. "It's part of your training," Itachi said as if it was obvious. "What training and where is Kakashi-sensei?" Sakura asked. "Pink hair is unbefitting of those who live the shinobi lifestyle," Shisui stated, ignoring her question. "I would agree, cousin, with hair like that she wouldn't last a second on a real mission," Itachi added. "Since this is training, why are we sitting around chatting?" Sasuke asked. "Yeah, I'm with Sasuke, let's have some fun," Naruto said, smirking. The two unbound Uchiha along with Sakura were confused at why Naruto was smirking. A few seconds later their question was answered. Two Naruto clones appeared behind Itachi and Shisui. Without even turning around, the two Uchiha dispatched the clones with well-placed kunai. "Nice try, Naruto-san, but you know you had to do better than that," Itachi said. "I was hoping to catch you two off guard, but I know better, but don't worry, that wasn't the end," Naruto said before launching himself at the two. Sasuke was up in an instant, flipping through hand seals, launching multiple fireballs at his brother and cousin. Itachi countered with his own, canceling the jutsu out. Shisui appeared in front of Naruto, kicking him in the chest, sending into a tree, knocking him unconscious. Sasuke, seeing himself at a disadvantage, decided to retreat. He turned to go into the forest but bumped into something. Before he could recover, something hard hit the side of his head, knocking him out. Sakura couldn't help but stare wide-eyed at the situation in front of her. Her teammates, who she had seen take on the sound ninja easily, had just been destroyed by these two men. Her heart was threatening to jump out her chest as the two men walked towards her. "We haven't been properly introduced. I am Itachi Uchiha, head of the military police," Itachi said. "And I'm Shisui Uchiha, co-head of the military police," Shisui added. Sakura sat there, still tied to the post, silent, not knowing what to say, her heart still beating fast. She was still in shock. If her teammates got beaten so easily, what would happen to her? She was snapped out of her thoughts by a hand in her face. "It's quite rude to just sit there in silence," Shisui said. "She seems to be in shock, Shisui," Itachi added in his monotone voice. I am Sakura Haruno," she finally managed to squeak out. "So you can talk," Shisui said, earning a glare from Itachi. "What, I'm just having fun. I'll go get Naruto and Sasuke," he said, disappearing. "What was the point of you two beating up Sasuke-kun and Naruto?" Sakura asked. "Those two aren't challenged by their peers, so those close to them challenge them so they won't become complacent," Itachi said, cutting Sakura loose. "You never told us where Kakashi-sensei was," Sakura told him. "Everything will be revealed soon enough," Itachi said as Shisui appeared with Naruto and Sasuke over his shoulders. Shisui sat the two down. He pulled out a kunai and flipped it to the blunt side. Electricity started to jump from the kunai. He touched it to Sasuke's chest, and the same with Naruto. They both jumped up as if under attack. "I'm glad you two could join us," Shisui said. "Now that you two are awake, we have things to discuss," Itachi told them. "Yeah, you have a lot to explain," Sasuke said. "Kakashi was called on to take a mission, and we were called here in his place until he returns," Itachi stated. "It must be serious for my dad to call on Kakashi so suddenly," Naruto said with calculating eyes. "Do you know anything about the mission he's on?" Naruto asked. "No, Hokage-sama hasn't said anything to us, but enough of that, let's get to the reason we're here," Itachi said, activating his Sharingan. With Kakashi, they were a few hours from reaching their destination. The northwestern post was home to Team 210 of the Niju Shotai, which consisted of Jonin Kibishi Raida, Chunin Heiken Burrito, Chunin Osoi Gakashu and Chunin Idate Morino. His thoughts wandered to the mysterious force that destroyed the village. Who could be bold enough to attack a village in the land of fire? He would have to wait until they arrived and Santa could extract the information. Let's hope that we can get something from those kids, Kakashi thought to himself. Later that day, Team 7 could be seen trudging through the streets of Konoha. Sakura sporting cuts and bruises all over her body, Sasuke limping and Naruto holding his left side grimacing in pain with every step. They hadn't trained this hard since before they took that C-rank mission. They decided to get something to eat before going home, so they were headed to Naruto's favorite place, Ichiraku's ramen, much to his delight. As soon as Naruto stepped through the door, his eardrums were assaulted by a loud voice. "Naruto, it's been a while, it's good to see you," a middle-aged man said from behind the counter. "It's good to be back, Tuchi Oji-san." Naruto replied with his signature grin. "I see you've brought friends this time," Tuchi said, looking at Sasuke and Sakura. "Yes, these are my teammates Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura Haruno," Naruto said, pointing at his teammates. "It's nice to meet you, sir," Sakura said, bowing. Sasuke just gave Tuchi an affirming nod. "Such nice kids, what will you three be having tonight?" Tuchi asked them. "I'll have my usual," Naruto answered. "I'll have 2 orders of miso ramen with a side of onigiri," Sasuke said. "I just want an order of steamed vegetables," Sakura said, earning the ire of her teammates. "Is that it?" Naruto asked, looking at her. "What?" she asked, confused. "We just spent a whole day training and all you're going to order are steamed vegetables?" Sasuke asked. "It's my body and I decide what goes in it," Sakura told them with a little force in her tone. She surprised herself by talking back to them like that. She could tell they were surprised too by the look in their eyes. Sasuke grunted, turning back around. "Fine, suit yourself," Naruto added. A few minutes later, Tuchi came back with their food. They ate in silence. The only time sound was heard was when Naruto asked for them to bring some more ramen. Soon they were done eating and they got up to leave when they bumped into some familiar faces coming into the door. "What a surprise find you guys here," Shikamaru said sarcastically. "I would say the same for you three," Naruto shot back. "Yakiniku Q is closed for the moment, so we came here," Choji said, walking towards the counter. "Oh, you came to the best place in the village for food," Naruto said. "Do you guys think we should break that up?" Sasuke asked, pointed at Sakura and Ino, who were pushing each other back with their foreheads. Sakura and Ino had been close friends when they were younger, but things started to change as they got older. In their 3rd year of the academy, their class was dropped off in the middle of a forest and told to survive until they were picked up by their teachers. Sakura and Ino decided that if they teamed up, then they had a better chance of survival. It had been 3 days and they had seen no one else from their class. They found a pond to drink water from, but they hadn't been lucky enough to find food. On the night of the 3rd day, they were attacked by a group of ninja. After that night, their friendship was never the same. "Do you two have to do this every time you see each other?" Naruto asked, pushing them apart. "Ino thinks she's better than everyone," Sakura said a bit loudly. "No, I don't think I'm better than everyone, just you," Ino said before walking back to her team. Sakura sighed in frustration and stormed off. Naruto looked at Sasuke, who shrugged before disappearing in a wisp of fire. Naruto shook his head. He knew this could become a big problem if they let it continue. "Maybe I should ask Mom about this, she might know what to do," Naruto thought to himself. He waved goodbye to Team 10 and began his trek home. As he walked home, he took some time to look at the villagers walking the streets. He saw an elderly man with a walking stick scolding 2 little boys, a family of 3 with smiles on their faces, and a multitude of villagers talking to street vendors. He couldn't help but smile. These people were part of the reason he chose to become a shinobi. He wanted to protect those who couldn't protect themselves, so they could walk the streets of their village and have a family day. As he was walking, he saw a large group walking through the western gate. From the symbols on their hitate, they were from Takigakure. So it's that time of year again," Naruto said to himself before he began walking again. Naruto made it home to find his mother and surprisingly his father in the kitchen. It was rare for Minato to be home in the middle of the day. He was usually in meetings or doing paperwork, but he was here now. "Ruto-chan, how did you like your training today?" Minato asked with a smile on his face. Nothing I couldn't handle, I've had worse. He answered. Minato, at least let him in the door before you start teasing him. Kushina said, scolding him. Alright, I have to go anyway, the village is starting to get a little crowded. Minato said, putting on his signature haori. I've noticed I saw a group of Takigakure ninja on the way here. Naruto added. So it's time for the Chunin exams again, always an exciting time of the year. Kushina said with a smile. Yeah, but unfortunately I have a lot of work to do, see you later. Minato said, kissing Kushina and hugging Naruto before flashing away. When her husband left, she looked to her son to see a crestfallen face. She hated when he couldn't see his father because of his work. Naruto did hide it well most of the time, she could never tell when he was sad or not. Naruto, your father wants to be home with us, but... Kushina started to say. What are you talking about? Naruto asked, looking at his mom as if she grew a third eye. Well, when your dad left, your face seemed to just drop. Kushina explained. Not because he left. Naruto responded. If it's not because he left, then why? Kushina asked, trying to find out what was wrong with her son. I know dad went to go meet with the Jonin sensei about nominating their teams for the Chunin exam. Naruto answered. And since Kakashi isn't here, he can't nominate your team. Kushina finished. Yes, and I have a feeling that he wasn't going to nominate us anyway. Naruto added. Well, you can't expect to make Chunin as a rookie genin. Kushina told him. Dad did it and so did Kakashi ni. Naruto responded. Those were different times, there's no need for early promotion. Kushina shot back. They didn't get it because of war, they got it because they deserved it. Naruto said a little bit heatedly before walking off. Kushina sighed, she knew this was a touchy subject for Naruto. All his life Naruto had been around elite shinobi, in fact some of the strongest shinobi in the world, and that became the bar for him. He expected to surpass them in every aspect. Kakashi and his fellow Jonin had made it to the outpost yesterday. Things happened and now Kakashi was chasing a group of spies through Fire Country. When they arrived, they were met by two shinobi. Flashback. Kakashi and Co. had just arrived outside the northwestern post when two shadowy figures jumped down in front of them. One of them had slender frame while the other was bulky. The slender figure stepped forward. Halt, state your name and business. He said. Kakashi Hitaki, here on official business. Kakashi said, stepping forward, making his Hitate gleam in the moonlight. Hayama Shirakumo. Hayama announced, bowing his head. Santa Yamanaka. Santa said, stepping forward as well. The two figures seemed to tremble as Kakashi walked by them. Frozen in place, Kakashi decided to leave them there and get down to business. He walked into the building knowing his way around since he spent a lot of his time during the war in Outpost. They made their way to the command room where two men sat talking to each other. He and the other Jonin stood there listening. You know they might send another team here with all that's going on. The older-looking man said. That should have been done a long time ago and you know it, Kibishi. The younger responded. Yeah, but I heard they were sending 3 Jonin. Kibishi said in a whispered tone. 3 Jonin, is this situation really that bad? The younger man asked with a look of surprise on his face. I don't know Idate, but whatever destroyed that village left no trace of it ever being there. Kibishi said with a hint of worry in his tone. Kakashi decided it was time to step in. Whatever happened really had these shinobi worried, and if he could help it his fellow Konoha ninja wouldn't lose morale. And that's why we are here, gentlemen. Kakashi said, startling the two. Kibishi and Idate tensed before turning to see 3 men, 2 easily recognizable, the third was a mystery. Well, if it isn't the Inazuma Kuro no Kakashi and Shinkyujin no Hayama, so you two are the ones they sent. Kibishi said, looking relieved. Yes, and my friend Santa Yamanaka here. Kakashi said, pointing to Santa. My apologies, nice to meet you, Yamanaka-san. I am Kibishi, Raida Jonin of Konohagakure. Kibishi said, shaking Santa's hand. It's a pleasure to meet you as well. Santa responded. Now that we are all acquainted, well, at least most of us, can you show us where the children are? Kakashi asked, looking at Idate for a brief moment. Yes, follow me, it's this way. Kibishi said, walking out of the room with the others following. They walked to a small room at the back of the outpost, and inside were 2 small boys on 2 beds. The first boy had brown hair while the other one had black hair. The group walked in and gathered around the boys. So how did you find them? Santa asked, looking at the children. Well, we've been feeling minor chakra spikes for about a month now, but whenever we get to the location it's empty, as if nothing was ever there. Kibishi started. Have you reported this to Hokage-sama? Hayama asked him. Yes, and he's sent some shinobi, but they get the same results as us. Kibishi answered. That's odd, let's hope we can do better. Santa added. As I was saying, we keep getting minor chakra spikes, but the other day we got a huge one, and by the time we got to the village it was nothing left but these two boys. Kibishi finished. So we have no idea who or what destroyed that village? Kakashi asked, speaking up for the first time. No, not at all. The only ninja village close enough to be a suspect would be Takigakure, and we all know they wouldn't risk war with us. Kibishi answered. Santa, it looks like you're up. Kakashi told his subordinate. I'll do all I can, sir. Santa said, placing a hand on each of the boys' heads. You might want to take a seat, this could take a while. Kakashi said, sitting down, pulling a familiar pink book. 30 minutes later a scream could be heard through the forests of Konoha. Kakashi jumped up and was at Santa's side in an instant, catching him before he hit the ground. Santa, what's wrong? What happened? Kakashi asked calmly. Boys, monsters, experiments, explosion. Santa mumbled out before falling into unconsciousness. We need to get him back to the village for medical attention, and fast. Kakashi said, picked his fellow Jonin up and put him over his shoulder and commanded Hayama to pick up the boys. They all began to walk out the building, and Kakashi and his group was ready to head back to the village when Kakashi stopped and looked towards the trees behind them. The branches were shaking and leaves were falling. Kakashi shook his head. When did shinobi become so sloppy? Kibishi, I need you to go get Idate for me. Kakashi said, setting Santa down. So what are we going to do? Are we going to chase them? Hayama asked. No, you're going to get Santa and the boys back to the village while I catch these clumsy bastards. Kakashi said, flipping through hand seals, then biting his thumb and slamming his palm on the ground. A plume of smoke erupted from the spot he slammed his palm on. From the smoke emerged 8 animal figures. The smoke blew away to reveal 8 dogs varying from mastiff to pug. Long time no see, Kakashi. The small pug spoke up from atop a large black dog. Sorry guys, but there is no time for chit-chat. I need you guys to escort Hayama and another ninja back to the village. Kakashi said as Kibishi came back with Idate. No problem boss, consider it done. A tan dog said. Thank you Akino. Now Idate, I need you to go with Hayama and carry these 2 boys back to the village. Kakashi told Idate. Back to the village? Idate asked. Yes, is there a problem? Kakashi asked. No problem at all. Idate said, picking up the 2 boys. Good, now hurry up and go. Kakashi commanded before running in the direction of the spies. End flashback. Kakashi had silently followed the spies to a small camp near the edge of the fire-grass border. The 4 that he was chasing met up with a man who was presumably the leader. He couldn't really get a good look at the man, but the swords on his back looked very familiar. Kakashi decided to make himself known. He jumped down and walked out into the clearing. The lead man was talking to his men but suddenly tensed up and turned around to face Kakashi. Now what would a former swordsman of the mist be doing in Fire Country? Kakashi asked. I'm doing what my employer told me to do. The swordsman answered. Was he the one who told you to destroy that village? Kakashi asked, pulling his glove on tighter. In fact he did, but it doesn't matter now, does it? He said, pulling the weapons off his back. So it's a fight you want? I thought you were smarter than that. Kakashi said, getting in a fighting stance. You weaklings, stay out of this, this is my fight. The man said, turning around to find his subordinates with their throats slit. He growled and turned back towards Kakashi, who shrugged. He looked down at his weapons one more time before dashing forward, meeting Kakashi's kunai. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.